Hi, it's Elise here at Bowman Library in our teen section with a whole new teen book spotlight. So for this week, we are taking some inspiration from some of my New England roots, as this Monday, literally today, is Patriots Day. And Patriots Day takes place in New England. It's a great day. Schools are usually closed. Boston Marathon usually takes place. Boston Red Sox play an amazing game. But it is important because it marks the beginning of the Revolutionary War with the battles of Lexington and Concord. So we're going to use that as some inspiration today as we take a look at 6 books that are taking place, inspired, talking about anything having to do with the Revolutionary War. So let's get started. Our first one is the Pox Party. So we meet Octavian, who's being raised in a household in Boston right before the Revolutionary War. He and his mother, who is an African princess, live there, and they are treated really well, actually. They receive an education, they are fed, they are well dressed. As Octavian grows older, though, he realizes that everything isn't what it seems, and he's actually being held there as a captive or a slave. And the purpose is he's being used as an experiment, as these people that are living with him, they're trying to figure out how smart Africans really are, which is not at all what he was expecting to find out. So when the family decides to hold a Pox Party, so basically they decided to, all their friends and family that got there, they got inoculated with smallpox. Things don't go as planned. A lot of them end up getting sick, and Octavian's mother actually dies from smallpox. So he decides he needs to take his life into his own hands, and he runs away and he joins the Continental Army. But when he is caught, things take a turn for the worse. This is the first in a series. You will want to check out the second book when you get done with this one, because you will need to know what happens with Octavian, the Pox Party. The first conspiracy. Now, if you've watched enough of these, you know I love amazing nonfiction that tells of something that has happened that is so crazy bananas that I wish that I had learned about it way before reading this book. And this is no exception. It's the year 1775. The colonies are in the midst of the Revolutionary War with George Washington at command, and the Declaration of Independence has yet to even be written or signed, okay? As events start to unfold, there are some in leadership that do not like the direction that things are going, and they get together and they kind of come up with that their only solution is they need to stop everything that's happening, and in order to do that, they need to assassinate George Washington. Because if he is gone, he's no longer going to be at the helm of the army, and then everything is going to be sure to fall apart, and then either they can go back with Britain or they can kind of re-examine what's going on. Little does everyone know that what is planned and what actually is executed is going to change the future of the colonies as well as military spycraft forever. This nonstop, keep you on the edge of your seat story is about something that happened in history, again, that I wish that we had been told about when we've been in school, but we haven't. You need to read it. This is the first conspiracy. Another amazing nonfiction book, and again, if you've seen enough of these, you've heard me talk about this author before. This is Notorious Benedict Arnold by Steve Sheinkin. Just like anything else by Steve Sheinkin, this book will open your eyes. So think about what you know about Benedict Arnold and like what we've been told about him in school. And it's probably what everyone else knows, that he was in the Continental Army as a general, and then he was a traitor, and then he had to flee to Britain in order to save his life, and everyone in the United States thinks he's this horrible person. But there is so much more to his story and his life, and this book is all about him. Like, why did he actually join the army? And then why did he decide to betray the people who trusted him? And you will find someone way more complicated than you could ever imagine, filled with information not just about Benedict Arnold, but also about all the players involved and the events that shaped and formed their decisions. You will find yourself asking, what would you have done if you found yourself in the position he did? And things are not as black and white as history makes it seem. Notorious Benedict Arnold. The Woods Runner by Gary Paulson. So Samuel lives in western Pennsylvania where he is surrounded by woods and loves to spend his days hunting. There are rumors that a war has started and there has been some fighting, but news moves so slowly and they have no idea how accurate it is. One day when he's in the woods hunting, British soldiers and the Iroquois warriors attack his house and they capture both of his parents. Samuel decides it's going to be up to him to rescue his parents, and when he starts to follow the trail that's been left behind, he soon meets Annie, whose family was murdered, and Abner, who is actually a spy for the colonists. It will be up to the three of them to successfully save Samuel's parents while trying to keep themselves alive at the same time. This action-packed historical fiction adventure sheds some light onto the daily dangers that all people face during this time and provides a very unique perspective. The Woods Runner. Give Me Liberty by Ellen Elliott. And this author is from Virginia. And so guess what? This book takes place in Virginia. So it's Williamsburg in 1774, and 13-year-old Nathan arrives to be the indentured servant for the local carriage maker. It is then that the tensions start to rise between the colonists and the loyalists, and when the colonists decide to take up arms, Nathaniel's master decides to join the colonist army. So even though he's too young, Nathaniel decides he's gonna go with him and he's gonna fight, and he's too young to fight, so he enlists as a fifer, or the person who plays like the fife flute at the front of the army. And it is then that everything changes. Filled with a ton of history. Maybe you've even been to Williamsburg before. This book is filled with all of those locations and things you probably have seen there. You'll be right alongside Nathan as he goes on this journey and adventure. Give Me Liberty. And our last one for today is Chains by Lori Halse Anderson. So Isabel and her younger sister Ruth are slaves in Rhode Island, and they are promised their freedom when their mistress passes away. But that's not going to happen, because when the mistress' son takes over the estate, he decides he's going to sell them because he wants to make money off of them. So he sells them to this cruel and ruthless mistress in New York City. In order to get their freedom, though, Isabel agrees to do something incredibly dangerous. She becomes a spy for the rebels, but soon into it, it backfires. And when she realizes through a difficult situation happens and she's forced into this scenario that no one could imagine, she doesn't know who she can honestly trust. You will be pulled into Isabel's story and you'll go through so many emotions, and this is a piece of her history that needs to be told. This is the first in a trilogy. You will want to read the other two as soon as you are done with Change, because it provides an aspect that needs to be shared. Chains. So these are just 6 of the books that we have here at the library that deal with the Revolutionary War, colonial America, all that time period. So we encourage you to come on down, check one of these out, or we can help you find that perfect book. I hope you have a great week, and I hope you tune back next week when we have a whole new teen book spotlight.